Yes. Good evening, colleagues and guests. We welcome you to our town hall meeting. We're going to talk tonight about Senate Bill 1383. Jerry Potras, would you approach the microphone and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please.
Place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Again, welcome to our residents and to our colleagues. We're here tonight to take a look at Senate Bill 1383. We're going to get an overview, talk about where we are with these state mandates, and then we're going to get to the heart of the meeting, which is we'll take questions. With that, we're going to welcome Brian Joes, the Director of Governmental Affairs for Athens, and he has a brief PowerPoint. We have copies of the presentation on the table here in the front, which we will pass around. Brian, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you to city staff for helping us to facilitate this meeting. And with that, we'll start. So, Senate Bill 1383, as Mr. Carmody said, we're going to do a quick overview. Thank you.
Clicker doesn't seem to be working in the right direction. Make it happen. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you guys prefer the handout?
So Brian's going to do this. I'm Gary. Gary, could you use the microphone? We're broadcasting this and recording it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Gary Clifford from Athens, and Brian Joes and Ashley Rosati are here with me. We also have Cal Recycle. You want to introduce Cal Recycle, Brian?
Sure. We have Ms. Jennifer Wallen from Cal Recycle as well to to answer questions about this state program.
So I just want to go over the first slide, and then I'm going to turn it over to Brian. But if you can see, this is a unfunded California legislative mandate, meaning this isn't something that any trash hauler in Southern California came up with. This is part of the California State's environmental and legislative program where the Senate and Assembly vote on laws that impact the waste and recycling industry and try to improve the recycling in our state. Now, you remember a few years ago I was up here and we talked about, is this on? Yeah. And we talked about AB 1594 and AB 1826, and you in West Covina have already gone through that, which is good. Some cities didn't do that properly, but you're doing your green waste appropriately at the curb, and we're taking that and composting it, and your businesses are doing their organic food composting, and that has been paid for. That program's done. Well, what happened in the state is the results of the statewide program have not been as effective as the state wanted it. The state wants more of the food waste to not be at a landfill. So after AB 1594 and after AB 1826, 1594 was on the residential side and the commercial side. 1826 was on the commercial side. They passed a new law and finalized it that's called Senate Bill 1383. And simply stated, Senate Bill 1383 is an organics mandate that is to remove organic waste from the landfills. And that's going to now affect the residential. So the big change in West Covina will be now that the food waste that you currently put in your black barrel will now go into your green barrel with the grass. Anything that's organic, the food food soil paper, anything that will biodegrade with organics, and there'll be a list of what those things are now going to go in with the green. And I want to be clear, that's not an Athens decision, that's not a West Covina decision, that's not a waste management decision. That is a state of California law now. So West Covina is going to have to comply with that law, and they're going to have Athens make sure that we develop a program that will make this city compliant with this Senate bill. So there'll be a change, as Brian will go through the slides. There's going to be a change in how residents dispose of organic waste. There's going to be a change in how we educate and outreach people in West Covina. There's going to be audits of residential routes that are mandatory. There's going to be audits of commercial routes that are mandatory. And there's going to be waste characterizations when our truck goes to the MRF, where we're actually going to have to put out a series of little bunkers, 30 or 35 of them, and categorize all the waste in the truck to make sure that the programs that West Covina has in place are accomplishing the goals of the state. Now, these are all good things from a standpoint of recycling and renewing, but it's obviously more money than the current program, and that's what it is, and that's what we're here to talk about. But more importantly, what we're here to do is help explain to the city what this new law is, why it's important that we comply with this new law, and what we can do to help each other to make sure that West Covina stays on the leading edge of recycling programs, because you have really good ones right now. Remember, we do most of your recycling for you. You guys separate your green waste from everything else. You guys are allowed to put bulky items out every cycle that your trash is picked up. Those are good things for you. We want to continue what's good and add some new programs. So I just wanted to kind of let you know where this all falls. You can see that you've already done AB 32, AB 341, AB 939, AB 1826, AB 1594. Now we're getting into the realm of SB 1383. So Brian will go through those slides, and then after that, Brian and Ashley and I and Cal Recycle will be here to answer any questions that you have so you can help us get the word out, okay? Is that fair? And we'll try to do it in time for you to be home by the 7th inning stretch, if that's important to anybody. Go ahead, Brian. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Okay. Then next slide, if you don't mind. So the whole reason why we're here is to facilitate the recycling of organics. And on this slide, you'll see what is considered organics now. So, of course, the normal things that you'd put in your green container, so green waste, grass clippings, normal yard work, that type of stuff from your home. And now what we'll be asking for is you to also put in your food scraps. So unused food, expired food, all of that goes into the green barrel. And the purpose behind that is if it goes to a landfill, it now breaks down and creates greenhouse gases. So the main gist to this new organics recycling program is to ensure that we meet state mandates and decrease greenhouse gases. And then just because I have you here, one other item that we like to always talk about is that there are some things that you might consider green waste, and they're not. So palm fronds, as an example, you can't compost that. You can't really break it down. Please treat that as trash. And we'll go forward. Thank you, sir. Okay, 1383 enforcement and compliance. Every city across the state of California is now required to have its own ordinance, so a city ordinance that mandates this type of recycling. And so essentially what that means is that in city municipal code, it will now be compulsory for you to have this type of recycling. And along with that, there are penalties. There is an enforcement mechanism that will impose. At first, it'll be educational, that you'll be coached up and taught, hey, this is what we would like from you in terms of recycling. And then at some point, as the city sees fit, they could possibly have have more of an enforcement there. And all of this is required by the state of California. And in order to verify that we are compliant with SB 1383, there are going to be new programs that ensure that we're actually collecting and recycling. That, to what Mr. Clifford said, that we are auditing the routes to make sure that we're meeting a threshold of what has been removed from the black barrel and is actually going into the green barrel. So there will be audits to make sure compliance with this. The waste characterizations, as Mr. Clifford said, waste characterizations essentially mean for different waste streams. So everything that's in one time will go through a truck that's been picking up a green barrel in West Covina. We take it to our facility. We literally drop it on the floor, and we have different containers that we sit there and we sort it out to say, hey, in West Covina's green barrel, there's a whole lot of trash, or people are putting items that cannot be composted. And so with that, then that means we need to do a better job of educating the public, reaching out to the public to make sure that they're aware of it, but then also to notify customers that it's not acceptable to not properly recycle. Part of SB 1383 is ensuring proper data retention and reporting, because we along with the city, send our data to CalRecycle, and CalRecycle is mandated by the state legislature and by the governor to report back to make sure that proper recycling is happening. Another component to it is procurement. So along with 1383 and all of the recycling for green waste, procurement means that there are certain standards, certain levels that cities must meet of procuring recycled goods. So whether it's compost to kind of close that circle and using that in city facilities, or using renewable natural gas, which is essentially, it's fuel that is generated from landfills and other renewable means. So there are state requirements that the city has to procure enough to meet the requirements. Next slide, please, sir. All right. So as we had said, the whole point of this is to limit greenhouse gas emissions, and as Mr. Clifford touched on, the biggest component for residential customers is food going into your green waste. So, thank you, sir. Okay. Also, with that, along with that aspect for residential customers, we have commercial customers. They will be required to have a bin for green waste unless there's an exemption, which the city may or may not give. There are requirements in terms of complaint. If a business says they don't have the space for it, you need to have an architect sign off that there is no space actually for it. There's a whole verification process. Thank you, sir. Okay, route audits, as we had touched on. So what we're proposing is we will be hiring additional staff to visually go and check customers. We will, as part of the mandate, we have to document this. So we will literally be plopping open your lid, taking a look at what's inside, noting it, putting it in our system, so that when we are audited by the state of California, by CalRecycle, we're able to quantify that recycling is occurring. We hope to see nothing but green waste and food waste in there. We would rather not see trash. And if we do find things that are prohibited, we will be noting it, and then you will probably receive a letter saying, please, we're going to educate you. Please continue to properly recycle. And throughout all of this, the state requires that we have a system to keep this data, to keep this records in perpetuity so that we can verify this. Thank you, sir. All right, more route audits. So what a route audit would be is under 1383, cities are scrutinized. And for us, the route audit would be to make sure that that truck that goes throughout your neighborhood, that if that neighborhood is doing a good job, then we're able to quantify, hey, so for our example here, we're serving a total of 2,000 homes. We've been able to go through and looked at just under 1,000. We found 16 examples of contamination, and then so that would mean a 1.67% on that route is not properly recycling, and that way we can target our education efforts on that route. Correct. Yeah, and to your point, ma'am, this begins January 1st, 2022. Nope, thank you. Chime in with any of those. All right, so back to enforcement and compliance. These are the waste characterizations that I had mentioned. So on the left-hand side, we have a recycling truck that drops its load. Then you see our employees sorting through it to determine what percentage of each one of those different materials are in there, and then we quantify that. So we'll put cardboard, glass, cat food tins, anything that can be specified and broken down. We do it by that matter. Thank you, sir. No. The MRF, but we're not counting it for you now. Yeah.
We break it down to certain categories. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So again, this is a visual breakdown of what a waste characterization would look like. On the top, we see what are recyclable, so paper, plastic, metal, glass, organic, and beneficial reuse. And then we have other ones that are also listed as well. Thank you, sir. Sorry, but if we do, I'll go back. Okay, so route audit. Perfect. So a big component about this from the get-go is to ensure that we properly educate and teach. We want compliance. We want people to properly recycle. So through that, we will have in-person presentations and training for example, for apartment complexes or civic groups to teach them about this new change in law. We will speak at Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, wherever you want us. We will be there to discuss this new piece of legislation. And yes. Oh, we do. I appreciate that because we also have the chamber here as well. So that is a very good point. Along with that, we will be so many of the educational items now are done over digital means. So through social media, through email, YouTube, TikTok. We're trying to get to people to actually educate them on what to properly or how to recycle and what to properly recycle. Yes, ma'am. January 1st, 2022 is when the law goes into effect. Yes? Yes, it's 3 months from now. Yep. Oh, correct, and that's why we're here tonight to get the ball rolling.
Not yet. No. It's on our website, though. I'll set you the link.
It's not on your website. I actually went to your website and I looked at every single thing on your website.
Okay.
And that's why I'm upset. Because they don't care to stay on. Yeah.
We're glad that you're here. So obviously residents were aware. So with that, we'll be moving. A few more. So with that, we'll be moving on. We have, sorry, sir. No, go back to the prior slide, please. Thank you. And along with our in-person training, we have promotional materials that we leave with our businesses. So, for example, behind restaurants, we want to ensure that there's such a high turnover a lot of time with employees. We want to ensure that we have a visual medium for them to see what is actually a component of each one of those waste streams. And also, we have this material available to multifamily residential customers and apartments and townhomes. Yes, ma'am. That is actually a state law now. So yes. Yeah, I know I've noticed that, like at the Costco in my town, that you now specifically in the food court have food waste, green waste, paper, or, compostable, recycling, and trash. But it is a component of state law now that you have resident.
Restaurants will start to have to invest. And that's something that they will have to do prior to the waste coming from that after. So it's good.
Yeah. So
Starbucks is doing it for a very long time as well. But that's a component that also will have to partner with our restaurant and food establishments to make sure that on the front end, before their stuff has dispose it in containers that we can collect to be
restaurants will no longer have that as an ability. You'll have, like the cutouts that'll say specifically what goes where. And I don't remember what the bill's number is, Jennifer. I'm sorry? 827. So, thank you, sir. Okay. So again, if you can tell, enforcement and compliance is a big component to SB1383. We will have an internal app that we will use to monitor when we make a visit to a restaurant, for example, who we've spoken to the manager, talked with them, taken photos of the green waste location, make sure that we take photos of educational material, all of that, so that we're able to quantify it to the state of California, because there are stiff penalties of up to $10,000 a day if a city is not in compliance. Sir? Okay. Well, once again, this is all part of the data that we have to now keep on each one of those items. Sir? Procurement. As I had mentioned, the state of California, along with SB 1383, has goals towards purchasing recycled materials. The two largest components to that are the use of renewable natural gas, and the other component to that is also the purchase of compost to help to defray the use of chemical fertilizers. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. It'll be with us, with access for the city, because the city has annually has reporting requirements to the state of California. So they can go in and they'll be able to go in and see what the current level of participation is, recycling is, and so it'll just be between us and the city. Correct. there could potentially be. There are fines that are in the state, are in the legislation. So the first while with this, it is completely education when it comes to enforcement. There will be. Yeah.
Yes, there will be. Just very quickly on that, too, there is going to be like a first, second, and third. But I want you guys to know, too, that because this timeline, this is the very first meeting. There's going to be a lot of outreach. There's going to be a lot of mailers. I think there's Assembly Bill, and Cal Recycle helped me, 619, which was just signed the other day. The governors gave city the whole year of 2022 to get this going. So you still have to work on it, but you may not get fined for the first year to get everybody on speed. And they know that January's coming quick, so maybe this won't go into effect until March. Because you have to understand, we personally, as your hauler, have to go out and visit every commercial customer. And then after we do that, we have to make sure every residential customer has been touched or contacted either through some kind of a campaign mailer or something. And then after that, we have to do these, I'll say 250 audits a quarter of random residential barrels. And we just have to put that data into the database showing that we did those audits, and then you're compliant. And then the results of that citywide get tracked all the way up to the state. It's a statewide program. So the state has to eliminate 50% of the organic waste up front. The city of West Covina has to do their part, but it's a state measurement. Let him. Well, I mean, potentially, but that's not going to happen. But yes, in your one can in a green waste isn't going to be considered contamination. There's a percentage level of what's in there, and a percentage level of what goes into the truck, and then a percentage level of what goes into our MRF. So one can, I mean, it's going to be a little more forgiving than that. Well, it'll still, I'm just telling you that when we have to measure it in a 10-ton truck, it's going to be de minimis is the word. But let's get through this and then we'll handle.
Sorry, sir, 1 second.
Yes, you have to finish your question.
Well, and I think that's why Monica from the chamber is here. Yeah. Yeah, over at the mall. All right. Thank you, sir. Okay. All right. Food recovery. Another component to SB1383 is ensuring that edible food is not thrown away. So a component to that is identifying, based on two different tiers, identifying generators of food. So they receive, wholesale food vendors, food distributors, grocery stores, and food service providers like caterers. Those are under Tier 1, which goes into effect January 1st. And what the city needs to do is have a plan to provide education to those generators to ensure that they're being connected with folks that can actually use the food, so it's not being thrown away. So, yes, ma'am.
We're talking about food that has not been prepared yet, not food that's cooked. Food that's cooked and not eaten will go into the organics barrel. This is food that has not been prepared, like a grocery store who has produce and they're going to send it back to the plant and it's still good. Then they have to make some reservation with one of these companies that will take it and reuse it. Or if a restaurant or what do you call it, cafeteria orders 100 pounds of ground beef and they only use 80 and they have 20 left over, they would have to make accommodations to have that 20 pounds taken to some place that can cook it and reuse it.
To be picked up by a food pantry, for example.
Yes, we're not talking about if McDonald's has 10 hamburgers left over, they got to call somebody to find out who's going to eat them. We're talking about food prep and the things that have not been cooked yet. But if there's food that has been not eaten at a restaurant or whatever, that'll be taken to the organic barrel and then processed into compost that way.
And then, just with Tier 2 was going down to smaller producers of that. So the goal is to not have food waste or green waste in the trash, but to be used either through composting or through edible means.
So in closing this out, I would just like to make a couple of comments and then ask Cal Recycle if they want to speak. But the elements of this are timely. Cities are now talking about this right now because the law, although it was started in 2016, has just been completed from a standpoint of exactly how it's going to roll out. So we are going to start, the city scheduled this meeting, and we said we would be here to help the city talk about what has to happen. We will also have a social media campaign in the city, whether on all the apps that we use, and Ashley could fill you in on that. And then in the billing, it's going to come out in the billing. But, I would estimate sometime in the first quarter that this will be reported to Cal Recycle, that people will start getting in the groove with it, and then it'll start at some point, maybe March or April, depending on how we go through this with the city council. But certainly sometime in 2022, the city is going to start this program. They're going to report to Cal Recycle that they have now at least put the motions in place to begin the program, which is what they need to do, start the outreach and education, and then reach out to the residents and to the businesses in town. And it's our responsibility as their hauler to help them do that if they so choose.
And this is a discussion that is occurring literally in every single city across the state of California. This is a program that every city is tackling, and we're glad to be able to start the journey with you. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I just talked about outreach. Covina is so not.
That's true.
Not everybody gets their bill. I can look at everything except for the amount. So you may think about another way to be able to communicate with residents. Paper, completely separate. Make sure that people are starting to understand.
Mm-hmm.
The city used to have a magazine that came out that I for almost 2 years. And I guarantee you most residents used to read that magazine. That was where people would get information about what's going on in the city. They read that. That's a way to communicate with most residents who are not, again, everybody's part of it. Again, the residents, they're not in their own way. And I read this very, I was just trained, I all this other stuff.
Well, I don't think we said it was. It's not one thing. Yeah. Okay. Hmm? Well, and Ashley, I think to your point, I know we were at the fire department open house recently, so we want to be out there. We want to ensure that residents are aware of this and that they are properly recycling.
You know, before we have another question, Cal Recycle, is there anything you want to add that we missed?
Jennifer, would you please use the microphone? We welcome Environmental Program Manager Jennifer Wallen. We really appreciate your being here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I am relatively local. I came up from Long Beach, and our office is in Cerritos, so I'm not coming down from Sacramento. But I do appreciate being here. I definitely enjoy hearing about all these programs. And like you said, we already have the green barrel here in West Covina, so just kind of moving some items over to that container. I did want to address the question that came up with contamination. Just noting through the regulations that were developed to support this law, there was maybe an initial iteration that had the fines specifically for contamination, but because of concerns like you raised, that like you said, as soon as you put your container out at the curb, you don't really have control over it. That aspect of the fines was removed from the regulations. So a jurisdiction could have a more stringent ordinance if they wanted to have fines specific for contamination. Well, but the fine component, yeah,
Let her finish, we'll get into
the fine component is really in the final regulations is related to refusal of service. So it's a little hard to see how that would work in a situation where you already have the container. So, but maybe if there was a business that somehow they refused the service, that could lead to, and again, it's still a process of education and trying to work with them and all that. But there could be a pathway for fines. But just noting that that's not inherent, for the contamination part. That would be at the discretion of the jurisdiction through their ordinance. So, yeah.
And I think in closing that out, it's really important to note that the city of West Covina has just started the process. There will be many city council meetings that deal with the organic ordinance that has to go into place, and then how we're going to do this. And then once all that's decided, then we will figure out what kind of education and outreach that has to happen and what program needs to be put into place. So that being said, go ahead with questions then. We'll take that. Yeah, we'll take that feedback back to the city, and maybe we'll do a door hanger, or we'll figure out how to get to each person. Like we have figured out how to get you billed. We'll figure out how to get the information to you, where you can verify that you've been contacted and that you understand it between our customer service. Sure. Yeah. Yes. You do. If you go paperless, then you give us. If you're paperless, you should have an email on file, and then we would. Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah, no, we still have that. I don't know why you haven't been getting them, but I get them. We have those still. Good. I know. And those, you know what? By the way, I had to deal with that today. It's a funny story. We replaced somebody's trash can today and took the round one away and put the new square one. She immediately called us and said, "Will you please bring my old trash can back?" No, I don't want, because we said the new ones are different. No, I want my old one back. So we're going to scrub it up for her and bring it back. But back to 1383, we are going to we are going to work with the city to figure out a way to make sure that we contact every residence, whether it's by in person, by phone, by email, because we'll go into the account and we'll note, yes, they've been contacted. Yes, we've had a communication with them. We know what to do.
Emailed out the flyer, and then I monitored the city's social media site and didn't really see it. So this morning, I also printed out some of the other copies, gave some neighbors.
You know what? I'll just tell you that I think that I called the city manager a couple weeks ago, and I said, "Mr. Carmody, we would like to get together with you and discuss how to launch this." He immediately met with me. He immediately scheduled a town hall meeting. He made sure that our schedule was clear. I mean, from a standpoint of my interaction with him, he did everything that he could to get this started. But this is just the first. We're going to have many of these, and I'll take this feedback. We'll take all this feedback with him.
Website where the flyer was that. I'm always at the town halls. Was that it wasn't at the banner, down there.
We'll do the same thing. We'll make sure that when Brian and I and Ashley go back, we'll make sure that we do something with West Covina customers, maybe even a robocall, whatever we need to do to make sure everybody's aware. We'll work with the city, and we'll take this feedback. We're having this meeting to get feedback on what to do to make sure we ensure a great rollout.
Important, I think, because it impacts our lives. And that's one reason I started notification, see what was going on. I'm a city employee. I just looked at it.
Well, I can tell you that it impacts our life quite a bit too.
But I have a question on what is it again?
Okay, go ahead.
And the green container. I like clean trash cans. So, if it's throwing out,
Mhm.
we have to wrap it in.
You don't have to.
But can we?
You can if you want to. We're asking. Well, isn't that nice? Yeah. Yeah. Bacon grease, I would just take it and either let it get hard and put it in there or just pour it over the grass when it's cool, whatever you're going to do. But that's something that you can put in. Yeah.
I'm like everybody else. If it's my heat garbage, I'm gonna pour it in the home
You,
before I throw it in the trash can. Because I want the trash can. But trash can, okay, yep. Trash, rinse it out with the whole, well, what it is. It's probably my first, like, my first, no, it's my trash can.
tell me.
You guys got a $2 and some change exercise fee. Just
Yeah, no, we'll all look at the bill. We pay a franchise fee on gross receipts, so that's just our
I
contract.
had two franchises,
Okay.
the regular one and the that one, and I said, well, so, you know.
Yeah. We'll look at that. We'll look at the bill and make sure we're doing that right. Yep. I want to tell you that part of our outreach and education is on your trash can, whether it's a sticker or as you replace them, Athens Services is putting a QR code. So everybody uses, even if you're not using social media, most all of us carry a cell phone. And you'll be able to take your cell phone and put it over the QR code on your barrel, and it'll tell you what can go in there or not. And so it's, yes. Yeah, our intent is to make sure that all of the older trash cans get some kind of notification on them over time, and then as we replace them, they'll be indiciated on the new trash cans. So we have some work to do here because we have a lot of homes and a lot of trash cans. But with the outreach and education, you'll get a piece of paper, or you'll be able to go to the website, or it'll be on your bill too. But in addition to that, maybe we'll do, and in working with the city, maybe we'll do a refrigerator magnet or something. Maybe we'll do something that works for this city that will help you identify what to do. And part of the city management and your PIO's job will be to gain that information and do the best thing that we can so you get compliance. Because what you need to know is, meaning Athens, Brian and I and Ashley, we're going to buy like 4 or 5 of those old-fashioned Jeeps with the right-hand drive. And somebody new that's going to be hired is going to be an auditor, and they're going to drive to a couple hundred homes every day, and they're going to do that stuff they have to do, and then we have to download it to a database. We have to fill out the forms, and we're going to have it on file so that at the end of the year, when CalRecycle gets their report, it says, West Covina is above 50% diversion. We've audited our homes. They're complying with the program, and they're diverting 50% of your organic waste. But there's a lot of moving parts. So now you're going to see the Athens trucks. You're going to see the little Athens Jeeps. You're going to see people in the street actually doing this. And where we had to do that at the commercial arena before, which is what's smaller, now we have to do it at the homes in the cities. No. Nope. Yes. So you do, and by the way, the city of West Covina has always been ahead of the curve on recycling. During COVID, it was a little rough because people were home and it was a very confusing time for a few months, but notwithstanding the few months of COVID, this city has always been one of the lead recycling cities in the valley. So I don't think that's going to change. I think the citizens have demonstrated the fact that they want to recycle, that they want to do the right thing. Again, it's the city's job to figure out how to communicate that, and we're going to partner with them to do it. And that's why this may be the first one of these, but I remember doing the 1826, we had probably 6 town hall meetings, remember, in different parts of the city, and there were hundreds of people there, 100 people there, 200. Yeah, so as time goes, and you saw we were at all of them, right? I was at all of them, and so we want to get the myth out of there. We want you to know that there's time to do this because the state government and CalRecycle was generous to extend this out a little bit. It doesn't mean you don't have to do it. It just means that you're not going to be penalized as long as you're working on the process of getting this done. Yes, sir.
So what is CalRecycle?
It's going to increase the gross rate of the city, and so if you're paying $1, then the franchise fee is going to be a part of that $1. So if there's going to be let's just say we do the service and the service is $4 a home, then that $4 that gets paid on a gross receipt will be subject to the franchise fee.
Yeah, is this one? We do have some information. We have the final rulemaking and kind of how the purpose behind the law and the regulations, and then we're building out the site. Not just we have all the information is there, but we're trying to gear it towards all the different entities. So right now there would be a page for collections that would be pertinent that Athens and the city would be looking at, but with time you'll see more that here's for residents or commercial entity, so kind of finding your niche, so to speak, and how to get the information that's pertinent to you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, it gets a little. Great, yeah.
And so our intent will be that when you go to our website, there'll be a link to Cal Recycles. And then when you go and pick West Covina, there'll be a link to your city website. It'll show your ordinance. It'll show what processes you're doing. And as Cal Recycle just wrapped theirs up, we'll link to all of those also. And that's, I mean, I think that I saw it already, but I'll ask Ashley to look at it and make sure it's there. But we have a few cities that have already implemented 1383. I was just in the city of Norwalk the other night. They did it. We have several cities that have already done it. They're getting ready to go in January, and it's linked on our website for their citizens and all that other stuff. So we'll make sure that West Covina gets that same treatment to understand it. And then our customer, after today, we will take this information, but our customer service department will also be briefed on West Covina because every city has a little different nuance. Some cities have 1 can, some have 2 cans, and some have 3 cans. And so it's a little, some people like my city has our own cans, but I live in Glendora, but that's going to go away too because Cal Recycle down the road has identified that the cans have to be a certain color and they have to demonstrate, because that all helps in the methodology of training people what to do. So in cities like my city of Glendora, in cities of Azusa, that we'll go away from the manual buying our own cans, go to an automated system, and that's a big training. We had a city a little bit west of us that actually had 2-day-a-week collection. So every house got collected 2 days a week, and it was manual. That city's already implemented it. They went to 1 day a week automated and made a lot of changes, and they're done, and it's all connected. And that's a big city, and it went through without a hitch. It was amazing. And we did the same thing. We started with a few people, ended up many more meetings. And the funny thing was the city council meeting where they voted to do it, there was probably only 3 or 4 people there. But as we implemented it, that's when all the actions started happening. You're going to get something, a postcard to saying, hey, they got postcards saying, how do you want to do this? What kind of service do you want to do? That's all part of it when we start rolling this out.
Some people would say that some would
To have a 3-container system.
confirmation of compliance. That's just a question.
Well, definitely through this law, there's still the sorry, am I too far away? There's still the outline of having the different arrangements. So, a 3-container system, like you're saying, then there would be the 2-container, and then even with 2-container, there's kind of 2 different options. Sometimes there's everything wet goes in 1 container, everything dry, and then sometimes there's the keeping the recycling in the trash and the green. And then there's even still the 1-container system. There's even a 4-container system. Is it? Mm-hmm. Well, it's just this law still outlines kind of having the different options, and different options work for different jurisdictions. Certainly when there's space constraints or the different facilities that are available. There's a lot of considerations of how the configuration would be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're talking about this waste streams. So right now you have 2 waste streams. Cal Recycle, the law, has allowed mixed waste processing to still be part of it. It's a little bit more stringent. If you were to ask me, Cal Recycle prefers independent waste streams. They like they like a trash stream, a recycle stream, and they like a green stream. That is their dream recycling customer. Not all customers have that method. It's kind of up to the hauler, and it's up to the jurisdiction. So we will be having a discussion with city management on the current method. Do you want to keep the 2-barrel program? Do you want to add a 3rd barrel? Those are discussions that we'll have as we look as the impact of the law.
I'm asking that question, Gary, because when you were here advocating for the contract with Athens, additional costs to residents in West Covina, or is this still open to?
I could tell you that if I said that 1383 is not going to have an additional cost, I was absolutely incorrect. I don't remember ever saying that. I would have said that 1594, yeah, tipping cost, this is not about tipping cost. You're not incurring, yeah. When we did 1826 and 1594, there's no increases to that, and there's no tipping fee. Yes. Yes. You can still keep those 2 bins. Well, I don't, again, can I, you're saying different things. The contract says that if there's a change of law, we're allowed to negotiate that change. That we never would say, right now you have a 2-barrel system that's compliant with everything that we have been thrown at. There's a new law, and it's changing that. So now instead of taking your green waste to compost, we have to take your green waste to go get pathogen reduced because it's going to have food in it, and it doesn't biodegrade like green grass does. You have to take. Well, we in 2016 we didn't know what 1383 was going to require, but we knew that at some point in time in the future that food was going to have to go in with the green, but nobody knew what that looked like yet. So, yeah, they just wrapped it up. So all I'm telling you is that whatever we decide with the city for 1383, there is potentially a cost in it, not a profit for Athens. There's a cost in doing that new service that's different than where it's going now. And that may or may not include a blue barrel. That may, I don't know that it will. It's premature to say that. But I do know that in every city, there's 88 cities in Los Angeles County. There's not a city that is implementing 1383 where there isn't a cost associated with it. The ratepayer. The ratepayer.
And how are we going to incur that cost? Because right now, what I've heard is there's no change in your service other than residents' requirements of separate.
No, those 7 points that we could go back to that slide. There's 7 things that we have to, it's a mathematical formula, and I'll make it easy for you without going through hours that I had to go through with Dave. But let's just say that you take your green waste, yeah, because it's very complicated. But while I'm talking, Brian, will you go back to that slide that had the 7 things on it? But what I want to tell you is right now, you put your organic waste into 1 barrel, and it goes to the landfill. It goes to the MRF. We take some of it out, but it goes to the landfill. Okay, it can't do that anymore.
Back in 2016, when you were negotiating the contract, you said that these interconnections thus far, you already had the 1383. I know, I understand, but you didn't have as much of anything to business when they incur this sort of store
Yes, they're gonna have that change, and residents weren't being charged now, but I said to be prepared for later. I remember that clearly, and I can look it up. I mean, it's historical documents here, but we would never say that was going to happen at no cost, because it's not. It's a totally different process. It goes to a different cycle. It makes the green waste much heavier tonnage wise. It's
are going to be subjected to
There's going to be a rate increase associated with Senate Bill 1383. It's going to be an addendum to your rate, and I'm just going to say if you're paying, yeah, it's going to be a rate increase. If you're paying $32 right now, it's going to be added to that $32 to have that service. Well, you pay it every 3 months. I'm talking about monthly. So let's just say you pay $35 a month and times 3, that comes up to something. Okay? That's going to go up a few dollars a month depending on how the service breaks out and what we do to try to mitigate those. It's looking at the entire contract and trying to say, here's the cost to do that. Is there ways we can mitigate that cost by doing synergy things, or is it just a straight cost transfer? For universal? You do. And it is universal, meaning it's the same tonnage price, but tonnages vary. So if you have 100,000 tons, it'll be times that factor, or if you have 1 ton, it'll still be times that factor. The cost of doing the program is the same in every city. It's how much tonnage the city has. And then based on the program, how long can you amortize that out? He was talking about the tipping fees. That was something different. He was talking about the San Bernardino County tipping fees, and that there was. Okay. I would like to watch that with you to see that, because I don't remember. I pretty much met all those meetings, and if he said that, I remember him talking about that on a specific most favored nations clause on a specific tip rate that had nothing to do with the annual pickup. But yes, your annual pickups still happen. Not during COVID, though. Not all of it. Okay, right now we collect everything that's in your black barrel and we send it to our MRF and we pull out everything we can that's a sellable, recyclable commodity item to avoid the landfill. Included in that is something called MRF fines, F-I-N-E-S, which are the things that trickle down, grass blades, organic food, just little things, right? Yeah, that also could go to a landfill as beneficial reuse, maybe on the side of a slope, but none of that stuff is allowed anymore. No organic waste is going to be allowed to go to a landfill at all for any kind of use, beneficial reuse. They don't want it anywhere near there. So now we are going to have to take that organic fraction, not have it in a mixed waste barrel, but have it in a barrel where 100% of that goes to be composted and pathogen reduced. So you have grass in there right now, mostly grass, sometimes some wood, sometimes some leaves, but those can go directly to composting. You just put them in a machine, you chip them up, you go through maybe 50, 60 days, and it turns into compost. The minute you put food in with that, it has to go to a different process, and you can look it up. It has to be pathogen reduced, meaning it has to get to a high temperature to kill the bacteria that food and food-like products take. Once you do that, then it can be composted and reused. So that different process is what is not happening right now to your green waste.
So I remember back when I was younger, and we took all of that organic. They did something with that organic waste, didn't go to a landfill. I don't know, I went back, but this is what I remember. It was totally simple. We never put any food scrap anywhere. You went outside and you put it in your little bin. Yep. Came by a cup.
Well, that creates methane gas, and if everybody does, it's like that process creates something that the environment isn't friendly to the environment. So now it needs.
Along that line, separate food waste. And it really help people to understand how they separate their food waste from their.
Here's. There's not a regulated one. There's, not in the hundreds of thousands of people size. See, all those things work good. They all work good on a small scale. But when you have hundreds of thousands and millions of people doing that, it has to be controlled.
I think it's based on each individual city, what the languages spoken are. But then through the app, we do in the city of Los Angeles. So we'll have Russian, we'll have Thai. That's where being able to scan the code on the top of your barrel when we are able to put it on, you'll be able to access, Korean, Tagalog. Yeah. So it'll be multilingual. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Right now, we believe the data shows that most people are throwing it out in their trash can. That most food gets thrown out in the trash can, so in the black one. So that condition already exists. So what's really going to happen if you think about it like this, and I think Cal Recycle hinted to this wet-dry kind of thing. What's in your mixed waste barrel now includes the wet, sloppy food. That is now going to come out of there, and it's going to go in with the green, which is already wet and sloppy. And the green already smells. If my trash day is on Thursday, my green waste barrels get filled on Friday, so they're there a whole week. By the end of the week, they're pretty ripe. My point is that now that's going in there, but guess what's going to happen? The things that are in your mixed waste barrel are going to be a better quality recycling too. They're not going to have that in there, but it's already commingled now. So whether you have a green waste or a black can, the food's going from one to the other in a more appropriate wet environment, and it'll be taken out of the black because traditionally, now not in all cities, traditionally in a black barrel gets picked up by a trash truck and goes directly to a landfill. It goes directly to a landfill. In every other city, that happens. In West Covina, it doesn't. Yours goes to a processing plant, and it gets processed. So those are different things that are totally different trash things. And it's my argument that when you pick up a black barrel in another city and another company that might have a different color truck than we do, and they take that black barrel to the landfill, they're throwing away a lot of recyclable items. That's why we process it, because we take them all out. And cities like West Covina have a higher diversion level because of that processing.
restrictions, limitations. So that once a year at park, and we were really that stuff that gets stored in people's backyards, which is the black mold problem. You know, people got our park or what happened. What happened to that? Because that was part of the contract, and somehow.
Well, we've been working with city staff on that going forward, and I know we had run into issues of, to your point about car parts, with people leaving oil and having big issues that would seep into storm drains and into gutters, and that put a strain on city staff being able to go through and monitor that as well. If you go to a city park, it's bad. Well, and throughout COVID, we've seen a huge increase in people calling in the bulky item pickups at their individual house. Because I'm sure like yourself, we go through and empty out your garage.
So what I'm hearing you say as feedback is you want the city to make sure they include the annual pickup in the future going through this. Is that what I'm hearing? The, I don't think that got changed. No,
I didn't. We'll talk to. We'll talk with customer service.
I don't know about that. I think that city staff for some reason said 1 year they had to put it off. Then I think COVID came. No, I think COVID actually. Yeah, it was just 2 years. Yeah. Yes.
We appreciate that.
Well, of course. Yeah. Well, it should do that. I agree with you 100%. Look, I will tell you this, and this is, you can remember this. We will do the annual cleanup as contracted, and the city will direct us what date, whatever the contract says, we'll do it. As long as there's no LA County restriction or other restriction, or nobody at Athens wakes up and says, we don't want to do an annual pickup. That never happens. We get direction to do them or not do them. So if we have a contract with a city, and if somebody just says, we're not going to do one this year, okay, we'll figure something else out. Maybe I think that year we relaxed the restrictions on the bulky item pickups, or I know we did something, I don't remember what it was, but what I can tell you is that a result of what you're saying today, we'll take that back and make sure it happens.
So those instructions are not coming from Athens. No one there wakes up with that in mind.
Yeah, they're not coming from us. So yeah, but and 5 times 52 is a lot more. Okay.
When it was annual, the restrictions were far.
So how long do you want to talk? You're going to have your annual pickup. Okay. You're going to have your annual pickup.
And
I don't know why it was canceled. We are going to do your annual pickup. It makes Mark Martinez's day. That's his most favorite work day when he does that annual pickup. It's one of the heaviest days. I think we have like 30 trash trucks in the city that day, and we just go through and bang it out.
I think to that point, I think we've probably exhausted our 1383 discussion. So,
Go ahead. You're going.
yes. Yes. You're supposed to have two. Yes. Going into, with the new program. Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah.
I would tell you that there's not one trash company that I know of that wants to pick up food in a separate truck. Right now, we're picking it up. Riddle me this. Right now, we go to commercial businesses in a truck, and we put in wet, sloppy food, and we have to drive it around town, and we have to dump it without it leaking. It's not the ideal situation. It's not a windfall. Yeah. I have to dispute that. Yeah, it's not. It's you can say that, and there's no trick to it. It's public information. That's right. But now we can't. Now we have to do it different, and we have to have different vehicles, and the trucks have to be sealed differently.
We have to do the waste
Food
characterizations.
Gets compacted is not a pretty thing. It's not something that we desire to do. Yes. Not about 1383, sir. About 1594 and 1826. You're combining that. I didn't say that. You still will get the benefit of the best rate when we negotiate 1383, but that's not tied to any of those. For the businesses.
Those are for commercial. This is for
yes,
residential.
Not for the homes. Well, that's still true on the commercial side. The commercial rate increase will be less because they're already separating the food. That is a true statement. For the residential. For the residential.
One was
You're
for
not doing
businesses,
anything with
one
your
was for
food right
residents.
now. Like the businesses are already separating their food. You're not. So now the residences are having to come on board. So yes. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah, this is called an unfunded mandate.
Well, it
So
comes
you're
back-
being
it
mandated
comes
to do
back
something
both
that
of
there
us.
is no funding
I mean, I have to
associated
figure
with.
out a way to, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, it's you know, it's, and we've done them all. 1590. No, it wasn't. So yeah. I know because we haven't determined what level of service, but I can tell you that across the state, it's anywhere from $3 to $6 a home, and anywhere from 1% to 30% on the businesses, depending on what they did with 1826. That's a broad statement. In Cal Recycle, in some of the documents, they've even shown that in some cities it's up to a 55% rate increase depending on the different levels of service they have. What I want, factually based, this city is already separating its commercial organic waste. The problem is not everybody's doing it because they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. So the ordinance now will have what they call teeth in it, and they're going to have to do it. But while the commercial businesses weren't doing it, now the residences have to do it too. And that's just the way it is. And if you, it's a law that has been put into place that we have to comply with, and it's going to be the three of ours job to bring the best deal to the city of West Covina that we can, trying to mitigate the cost versus the time versus the value. And we have it done. We have it done in all of the cities. We just don't know how the cities want to implement it, and that rate changes depending on how they want to implement it. Like I said, it simply stated, you could have. I'm going to make these numbers up.
Well, I got a lot of takeaways tonight. We've begun the conversation. We didn't come here with a solution. We came here to listen. I've heard a lot of things, so I appreciate everybody's comments tonight. One of the things I heard was bring back the Discover magazine. One of the things I heard was keep costs to an absolute minimum, but you want it done correctly. So Gary and I and Brian and Ashley have some work to do. One thing in our stead here is that in Athens we have a valuable community partner. It's not like we're at war with our trash hauler here. I can tell you in other towns that's not the case. I don't think we're going to deliver this for some freakishly low expense per capita. I think to do it properly, we're going to have to, as homeowners, we are going to have to pay. What that is and how it is and when it is, we're figuring that out. But we're starting tonight. Yeah, we'll bring some comparatives, but we are figuring this out, and we're starting now.
They are compliant. Glendora is compliant. Their commercial businesses are doing what they're supposed to be doing. the residential is going to have, yeah, residential is going to have a service change because obviously it's going to be, yes.
I've been on your program with 2 trash cans, 35 So I obviously know what it's like to be in this environment and know, yes, I'm being more than maybe the typical resident of the city is, because I agree with what I want, so I didn't have to go through the treatment all about myself. I can take something to inform so I can be it, right?
Right.
So I agree with a lot of time. Every other Okay. But yeah, you need to understand what you're doing today. Right? First, the conversation is looking to understand why is our and I'm just going to tell you, because we don't necessarily trust our city anymore, and how it's being run. Okay? So we want to make sure that we understand all of those and why we're not really funding something that we don't all
I'm here all night. It's another cost, and I believe it has an impact on the environment. That's my personal opinion. But, and yeah, I would much rather have 2 trips than 3, but it just depends. We will look at this entire city, and we will make sure that we propose the best deal for the city. And what that is tonight, I don't know yet because we haven't talked to a subcommittee of the council. We haven't. All we're doing is trying to begin the addressing of 1383. And hopefully there won't be another environmental change. We've had a lot in a small period of time, and I wish. Yes.
Subjective. That's up. See, and the question that you're forced to do this thing. You're business
If you're a city that has a lot of green lawns, it's going to cost more than if you're a city at the beach and you have all concrete. Because it's just a, that's in today's world. No, it just, all it's going to do, it's based on what you throw out. And if there's an approximation that 20% of what you throw out is organic waste, that's going to have to increase the tonnage of your green waste by 20%. Well, I don't even know if you're allowed to. That's another thing that I don't know that you're supposed to be doing that.
If we're throwing it out with the black or the green, why would it increase the tonnage?
Because the tonnage, it's where the tonnage goes and how it gets processed. Trash tonnage has a lower processing rate than organic tonnage. Yeah, so now you're going to have less trash, but more, it's the same tonnage at a higher price because it can't go to the trash line anymore.
I'd like to compliment you for you're going to notice that you're it's about Amazon and right now there's 900 Amazon delivery trucks on the highway, so your athletes practically do it. We didn't get it. Our neighborhood didn't get it all meeting, and we're suffering from no notice.
We're going to have lots of these, and I can tell you one thing right now, we pick up a lot of,
You for having at least this because
yeah.
we didn't get any.
We pick up a lot of Amazon boxes. I can tell you we recycle a lot of Amazon boxes. All right. All right, well,
I'd
listen.
like to thank everybody for being
Yeah,
here
thank
tonight.
you.
Our guest from the
We're
state
still, we're
and from
going to go
Athens.
off record, but we're still here.
Thank you.